Yeah, I don't really know where to start. Just I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'm not really an actor, but I'm primarily a writer, and always wanted to direct as well. But wound up in a whole other field unrelated to entertainment, and had a career in it, and kind of picked it up on the side as a hobby. And the thing I would tell you, I think it applies to acting too, is it's taken a very, very long time to let this play out. I mean, I think I wrote my first screenplay in '95, and I let my career get in the way for a while. And then I got real serious about writing in end of 2001. And I mean, it was real hard working full-time and writing and working and writing and working. In '03, one of the things that's kind of made it a lot more accessible to all of us is the technology. And I shot my first guerrilla feature in '03. I was working for a company down in Australia, and I realized, you know, everybody buys the DV camera and shoots a picture in LA. I think there have been enough guerrilla films made in LA. And I realized a place like Australia, at least I had that unique thing going for me. And I banged a script out, and I found some kids down there to act in it. That was kind of exciting, you know, just walking into a town and just looking for high school acting talent. And before I knew it, we did this movie. It wasn't very good, but I mean, it was what it was. And that's part of the message too, is you gotta, starting bad isn't a bad place to start. You know, starting good is great, and I suppose every once in a while someone like Quentin Tarantino does that, but a lot of us, I think, start bad. And the thing is not to get discouraged just because you started bad. Bad precedes good. And, you know, I mean, then I think I met Jake sometime around the mid-2000s, and that was when I was going to UCLA Extension and doing their entertainment studies program. I did their writing program, too, and made a few shorts while I was there with some mutual friends of ours. You knew Jack. Yeah, you knew Jack Kissel quite well. And, you know, and I interned in the industry as a reader. You know, I interned in post-production and a little bit in production. And was perfectly happy getting people coffee and stuff. You know, when I'm working in a Fortune 500 company 3 days a week, you know, drawing a white-collar salary, and 2 days a week picking up garbage out in front of a production office's parking lot in the morning. I actually had more fun doing that than working. But it was a very slow process. I've written something like 20 scripts. It's again this thing. I think this overnight thing, my personal opinion, is really a hyped up bunch of BS that you're fed. It's a great story when you can say, oh, 2 kids from Boston moved out here and had this brilliant screenplay, and it became an Academy Award-winning movie. And does that really happen? And does that really happen all that often? I mean, that almost never happens. I mean, it's a great story when they tell you that, but the truth is, it's years in the making. And what ended up happening with me is I came to a point where for a while I was stuck in this have my cake or eat it thing with, I had a house, and this was the mid-2000s. And call me crazy, but I thought this whole real estate thing was going to crash eventually. So I thought, wow, either I can have this house and I need this job to pay for this house, or I can sell this house because it's like doubled in value, and get out of my job and really, it's kind of put your money where your mouth is time, you know. And I decided to do that. So I had all this money just kind of sitting there on the side. I was afraid to spend it for a long time. And finally in the meantime, I went to Cal State Northridge. I'm just about done with my MA in screenwriting, and I got the opportunity to teach writing to undergrads there, and that was a lot of fun. And I think I took my writing to a level it's never really been before. And in the summer of 2009, there was really nothing to do, so I thought, you know what, I did this guerrilla thing once before when I didn't know what I was doing, and I made a kind of bad movie, but I made it and I had more fun than I've ever had. I think I actually know what I'm doing now. Why don't I do that again? And I have some money put aside. I could actually shoot this thing myself. And the script turned out pretty well. It grew from what I thought it was going to be. I was lucky enough to have a few friends who were pretty well-known actors. One of them was our mutual friend David Marciano, who was on The Shield, played Detective Billings in the later seasons of that. I actually happened to be friends with Rainn Wilson, and he told me, I'll give you a day. Whatever you can do with me in a day, I'll give you a day. So I wrote a part with him in mind, and I interspersed it throughout, and I kept it in one location so we wouldn't have to do any company moves. And actually, people are pretty amazed when they see the movie and realize we only had Rainn for a day, because it seems like we had him a lot more in that movie. Friends with Michael Sheen, and I was kind of hoping I could convince him to do a cameo, and I did, ultimately. So, I mean, you know, I started with a few people I knew, and then we approached some other people. This movie called Few Options is about a guy who's been in prison half his life for one stupid mistake where he agreed to be the guy that drove the car load of drugs, and he got pulled over. And some like dumbass thing you do when you're 21, and he got a mandatory sentence. So he comes out, he's like in his mid-40s, and he's got nothing. And you know, the big question came up: who can we cast? I originally thought we would cast an unknown actor, and we would shoot this on weekends over the course of 6 months. Wrote it for a lot of the locations that I controlled and stuff that I had access to, cars that I had access to, things like that. And it became something much different. We ended up coming, probably because of David being involved. Kenny Johnson came to mind from The Shield. He played Lemansky, one of the 4 guys on the strike force that got killed in the 4th season. And then he went on to Saving Grace with Holly Hunter. And he's on Sons of Anarchy now. He showed up last season, and he's going to be coming back this season. And that was just a thing. Jake happened to be Facebook friends with him. I'm like, okay, I have like a 36 degrees of separation connection to, you know, because Kenny's got like 2,000 friends. So I friended him. This was just over a year ago, and I waited to see if he responded. It turns out Kenny like friends 30 people at a time. And then I waited a week, and I wrote a very carefully written email, a long one, and I reread it and read it. And, you know, I did not just send a willy-nilly email saying, look, I know your work really well, I have this thing I think you would be perfect for, and here's why I think you'd be perfect for it. I made extensive reference to what he'd done on The Shield. And to my amazement, he wrote right back, and he said, I'll have a look. And I sent him a PDF of the script. He read it, and I think we were meeting a couple days later for coffee. He wanted to do it. I happened to catch him at a good time between gigs for him. The Sons of Anarchy thing hadn't started yet. And then it just took off from there. We did get a casting director involved at a certain point, who ended up ultimately getting us an unknown actor named Christian Stokes, who was fantastic in a supporting part, as well as Brad Dourif to play the bad guy. Brad is an Academy Award nominee for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and you'd probably know him best from the Child's Play movies. He's Chucky, and he was also Grimo Wormtongue in those Lord of the Rings things, I guess. And just a bazillion other things. Brad's got like about 250 IMDb credits. He works a lot. And Erin Daniels from The L Word, she was the one that was the tennis pro that died of cancer, I think. She ended up taking the female lead. So we got those 2 actors through casting director. Then Kenny ultimately brought Laura San Giacomo in to do a cameo because they were on Saving Grace together, and he brought an actor named Dayton Cowley in to do a cameo. He's on Sons of Anarchy. He plays the sheriff. So, I mean, it was just interesting how it all came together. It became a more traditional 21-day shoot, I guess, 19, and then we had 2 days of pickups the end of last summer. It was pretty crazy and pandemonious. It was a SAG ultra-low-budget picture. I got a kick out of the improv line about the 8 for 64. We had a lot of 8 for 64s and 4 for 32s. Because with the SAG ultra-low budget, it was kind of nice. You're allowed to mix and match SAG and non-SAG. And, you know, SAG ultra-low budget's a great deal because as long as you keep the budget low enough, you can get any SAG actor for $100 a day if they're willing to do it. Plus fringes, it ends up being more like $133 a day. But still, I mean, for actors like that, you just pay that, and that's a steal. And but you're allowed to hire for some of your background people and your more, you know, one-line type people, non-SAG actors, and we just paid them $8 an hour. So we had a lot of 4 for 32s and a few 8 for 64s and 6 for 48s, whatever, you know. and that was kind of a nice opportunity, I guess, for some of those people. Some people I knew from my gym and stuff that are like up and coming actors, but they're not SAG yet. So if I could find a place for them, I threw it to them, you know, and everyone did great. So we kind of finished this movie, post-finished in November. I went to American Film Market, which I don't know if you've ever been to, is a trip. And because of this cast, more than anything else, it certainly wasn't because of me, no one knows me, was able to take about 30 meetings, got about 5 or 6 credible offers to represent the movie as a sales agent, went with Curb Entertainment, who in the meantime, I mean, it's real good to go to these things like the American Cinematheque, the seminars they have there, and there's this guy, Thomas Ethan Harris. He teaches things like editing seminars, like what makes really good independent film. And he had this seminar on the festival circuit, because that was a thing I was pursuing in parallel, festival strategy. And he happened to know of Curb Entertainment, says I have had filmmakers that I represented by them, and they've always done well by them. They've never screwed anybody that I'm aware of. So I ended up going with Curb. And they took the trailer, they hastily cut together a trailer in February and went to the Berlin, concurrent with the festival. There's a film market there. And I think on the strength of that, we haven't inked the final deals yet, but apparently we've sold the Canadian territory in the Middle East. They just went to MIP TV last week in Cannes, which is a cable and TV outlet kind of European market. I haven't heard yet how we went there. They're going back to Cannes next month. There's a bigger market that goes with the Cannes Festival. And word is we've got at least one group here interested in domestic. We're not sure if that will include a baby theatrical or if it's just going to be home video. But whatever it is, it is. You know, I'm just trying to get some of the money back at this point. And it was an entree film, you know, and it seems to have achieved its purpose. I mean, one thing I'll tell you, which you would be really interested about as actors, is this whole IMDb thing. I'll hit that from a couple of different ways. IMDb, if you haven't yet, you will come to hate, but you need it. It's just, God, those people are frustrating, and no one can touch them. You can't even reach them. There's no phone number there. Apparently they're owned by Amazon now, but apparently they are widely hated by everyone, especially actors and SAG. Early on, we tried to get this movie on IMDb as an in pre-production movie a year ago, actually, and they wouldn't put us up because they did not believe I had that cast, and I couldn't convince them. We shot the movie. We were into LA Times. They were movies in production around town. We had all our film permits, so it was clear that we had shot a movie. They still wouldn't put us up, and they wanted to see the actors' contracts, and I was not going to send those actors' contracts to some bozo at the other end of an email that I've never even met. So somehow my art crew, who are kind of some legit guys, they've done a lot of movies, they started getting their people in and managed to get the movie listed. And I said, okay, let's do it you avoid the big name actors, just put crew and me in the title. And so we kind of, by September, we got up on IMDb. And it's been interesting as the big name actors started to show up. I think it's a worthwhile investment. It's only something like $14.95 a month. You can go for IMDb Pro, which is the one that all the pros use, so all the agencies and all the production companies, they have IMDb Pro. And it, you know, among the other things it'll show you is the ranking of whatever it is. It can be an actor, like right now, what's her name from Sucker Punch is #1, the Australian girl. For a while, Charlie Sheen was #1, but I mean, movies can be #1 too, or production companies, whatever. All it's based on is whatever people are clicking on the most that week on the site. And we started out around 16,000, which is not too bad. I looked at other stuff that was coming out at the time. Maybe we started around 20, but very quickly by October we were at the 16,000 range. I was tracking us against Miranda July's latest movie, and we were actually ahead of hers, which I was a little surprised because she's a pretty notable filmmaker. And we've been down around the 10,000. We even broke into the 9,000 status last week, I think. And I think it's largely because of A, the cast, and B, what Curb is doing now and hitting all these markets, and that's what they're supposed to do. So, was there a question? Feel free.
Oh, no, I was going to say, like, with the IMDb thing, because I have a film that came out a little while back, and what'll happen, too, is when you go get on BitTorrent sites, when you release, then your numbers will go way up because all those sites are viral,
Right.
and all those guys. I mean, it sucks, you know, they're stealing your movie, but they'll propagate, and
Yeah.
like your numbers will all like all my personal ratings went like just for like a little while when it was on all these torrents. Like,
Yeah.
it was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And like, but then it dribbles off.
I'm hoping we avoid being on BitTorrents, and I've been very hard. You know, we need to make our money back.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to make our money back. I mean, this was like a house worth of money here. This is like my life savings. So I've been very careful about that. But yeah, I mean, we found that too with the lead actor, Kenny Johnson, for instance. He did a Law & Order SVU back in January, which was an awful episode, but he was fantastic. I think that show's really kind of jumped the shark, but he was fantastic, and it was amazing. I noticed our movie jumped 38% in popularity the next week, and then I looked and he had jumped 38. He kind of, if any of your actors or anybody involved in your movie jumps, it kind of pulls the movie with it or vice versa. So that's kind of nice. But the thing we're up against right now, it's kind of killing me, is not that many people have seen the movie. We had a screening for about 110 people with a cast and crew Q&A at Cal State Northridge back at the end of February. We had a test screening of a very rough cut last summer, and then some sales agency people have seen the DVD screeners, and that's about it. So I would say maybe there's been 150, 200 people have seen this movie. So I've been reaching out to as many of them as I can to vote for it, give it a numerical rating, you know, the 1 to 10. And in my experience, you know, what I'd realistically like for this movie is something between a 6 and a 7. I mean, even stuff in the 5 ranges is okay. Anything below 5 is pretty much a dog. I mean, they're bad. It's a bad movie, to be honest. Where we're at the moment, and again, this is another reason you will hate IMDb, is someone gave us a 4, someone gave us a 5, and then I've got 44 ratings that are between 6 and 10. And you know what they average that out to? As of today, 5.3. 5.3 is I got 2 guys standing over here, 44 over here, and they're saying the balance point is over here somewhere. And they're apparently they're just, again, they're suspicious. We're gaming the system. I compared us to a Mario Van Peebles movie that a friend of mine shot last year with same number of voting people and similar demographics, except someone gave them a 3. And most of their votes are 10s. Most of ours are like 7s. And they've got like an 8.7 rating. So apparently whoever voted for them, they believe a lot more than us. So yeah, IMDb, like I said, it's a headache, but you kind of need it. It gets you out there. One of the nice things it did for those 4 for 32 or 8 for 64 people who weren't SAG, it got their names on a movie. With in a lot of the cases, that was their first ever entry in IMDb. But I think that's a good thing to have out there. So. And some of those people I know in a couple of cases, we had a restaurant scene and some things like that. We needed to just get bodies on screen. And we ran Craigslist ads last minute. Some of these people just kind of showed up, you know. But it turns out some of them already had a lot of IMDb credits. So, I mean, you know, if you're willing to work for $8 and maybe get some free food, you know, $8 an hour and some free food, you can rack up some credits that way. They're just going to be like restaurant patron number 2 or stuff, but I mean, that's okay, you know, for starters. It's something. So I don't know, I think I probably run out of like...
You did a great job. I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the actors do as such a low deal, did they get back-end money? You don't have to give me the details, but
well, yeah, SAG actors, absolutely. There's always SAG residuals. There's no getting
around it. Can you explain what back-end money is? It points?
Well, there's 2 different things. Some of the actors, yeah, it's an individual thing. And the SAG ultra-low contract doesn't stipulate that at all. It's whatever you work out with that actor and their agent. And there's 2 different kinds of things. There's back-end compensation. After the movie makes its money back, you say, okay, you're getting a deferred compensation. So in addition to what we paid you daily, you get X amount of extra dollars. And typically, you get whatever money comes in, you get a portion of it, that actor gets a portion of it, this guy gets a portion of it, etc. Then after all that gets paid out, there's back-end points, which some people get. Any money left over that comes in after all the deferments have been paid, Those are the net points. I don't know that this movie's ever going to have net points. I'm just hoping to make at least part of the investment back. I don't even know if we're going to pay the deferments. I mean, we will if we make that much money.
But once these guys' careers continue to go and go and go, it won't be in the video store. It'll have those stars' names for all of eternity.
Yeah, and it'll keep earning money,
So.
you know. But I mean, you get those jokes about, yeah, I got my 50-cent residual checks. I don't know, but that's a separate thing. The residual checks, in addition to that, anytime the movie is earning money, SAG requires all the SAG actors to get, and it's something like 4 or 5%, depending on how much money the movie has earned so far.
Did you do that on purpose with Rain? Did you try to get him throughout the movie just in that one day? Was that written that way? Or you
Oh, yeah.
I got a big star, so I'm going to have him in all that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's brilliant.
And Dunn also kept the location the same throughout, because that kills you. Company moves half a day a minimum, even a day. I mean, I couldn't afford to be driving Rain around town. I just needed him one place and use him, you know? So.
The money from the territories, I don't know anything about that. So is that going to be able to cover your? Do you owe money now? Is that how that works, or is it just kind of your?
Well, no,
replenish?
No, the way it works is they're incurring expenses to market it and to fly around to these different markets and have a trailer cut and all that kind of stuff. And they will recoup that money. We put a cap on it in the contract. They can't take more than a certain amount. And then from then on, all the money that comes in every time they sell a territory, we just agree on a flat rate. Okay, this country gets it for that amount of money. They take a certain percentage of it, and I get most of it. And then SAG will take about 5% of it. It'll be held in reserve for the actors.
So you're meeting now with agents and managers as a director?
No. That's somewhat down the road. I'm actually working on my next thing. A different actor, Donald Logue, has been wanting to play this part in a movie I wrote for a couple of years. You might know Donald from, his big movie was The Tale of Steve, which I think took the jury prize for Best Actor at Sundance about 12 years ago. But he had that series Terriers that got canceled. He was on Grounded for Life for years. And if you saw Donald, you know, oh, that guy, he's in everything. And he really wants to play this part about a guy in the outback getting trapped in a well by this sadistic, like, 15-year-old girl who we've had our eyes on, what's her name, Emily Browning, for like 3 years, and now she's #1 on IMDb because of that movie, which apparently is not very good, Sucker Punch. So I mean, now it's like right when we need her now, everyone's calling her because she's like, I'm sure she's getting a lot of calls at the moment, but we'll find someone. Maybe we'll even find her. I don't know.
Maybe find her.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't know. I don't want to, and I was advised, no, this is not the time you want to be wasting trying to get an agent. I mean,
Yeah, that's just an important question.
yeah, it's just keep. What I'm trying to do is I made one with my money, which is being taken pretty seriously. The next step is try to make one with someone else's money that gets taken pretty seriously, and more of someone else's money. And I think actually it looks like that, maybe working out. The guy who was the production designer on my film, and I told you, those guys, the art and production design guys, have been around for a while. They're the ones that got us up on IMDb. And he works with a bunch of people. They do slates of films, like 3 films for like 1.5 each, or maybe a 5 million, a 2 million, and a 1 million. And he's trying to get this script in as one of those slates somewhere. And he's got a lot of contacts. He thinks we could do it. And I'm just thrilled about the idea of using someone else's money this time. So, I mean, that's the next step. Maybe after that, I think the counsel I've gotten is wait for them to call you. At a certain point, they will. But don't waste your time chasing them.
That's good. That's really good. In terms of IMDb, just like I'm 40 years old, and I put my birthday up there one time, and now I want to take it off. As I'm doing more and more acting, so I couldn't find anybody to take it off. I couldn't find them. Someone from my high school was like head of publicity or something at IMDb. I wrote her an email. She didn't answer me. And finally I got through, and some guy's like, I'm sorry if that's your birthday, we won't take it off. You can send us birth certificates to prove your birthday is another birthday, but basically we have it. I'm just like, oh,
Yep.
you know, because it's none of their business. And so they're like, once we have it, that's it. So.
Yeah, no, I found that too. Once stuff is up, good luck. And that's why SAG hates them. I had mentioned that earlier. Because actors with the same or similar names, credits will pop up. That's happened to Kenny Johnson. He's like, I was never on that. But they get good luck getting him to take it down. They won't. I mean...
But I used IMDb Pro to get my agent, my manager, and my commercial agent just by sending emails. So it's a huge, huge...
And I should bring that up. That's a good point.
What advice you give them to actors?
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to break your thought.
Yeah, all right, let me get that one. But I was just going to say, when I told you I took 30 meetings at American Film Market, IMDb Pro was really useful in figuring out who it is I needed to reach out to, just because I knew who the companies were and a little bit about them. And I wouldn't just waste my time with like some company that they just do slasher films, because that's not what my movie is. So you look at what movies they've done, what genres, what budgets in a lot of cases, and who the kind of actors, what caliber, you know, I mean, in terms of fame level, are these like people from Dawson's Creek, or is this like Adrian Brody slumming, you know? I mean, you figure out what kind of movies they do and if that's a company that you're wasting their time and yours or not by pursuing. So it's very useful for those kind of things. Advice as actors? Well, I mean, I think like I said, I don't think it's a bad idea necessarily to keep your eyes peeled on things like Craigslist and Mandy and all of those for extra gigs. I mean, you know, you never know. You might wind up with IMDb credits that on some pretty serious, would end up being some pretty serious movies. The other one is try and get in, and I don't know how you do this. You're the one that can tell them this, how you get in with the casting directors. Because, I mean, like I said, that one guy, Christian Stokes, pretty damn good performance. I didn't know who the hell he was. Played like some undercover cop on Monster. You know, he's a Southern boy, so he fit right in that. But he hadn't done he's not a high-profile name or something, but casting directors. I mean, and we had a huge casting call, 3 of them actually, at Film Independent. There was like 50 people milling around out there. I think it was a little too much, but and by the way, I'd be prepared for that. I felt a little bad about this, but it's the way it happens sometimes. I mean, like the Michael Sheen cameo, for instance, and we would have been stupid if we didn't plan for the eventuality that he might not be able to do it, because maybe he was going to have to do something. I mean, he's always flying all over. So we had some casting calls for that part. Oh. And those actors had to wait around and to find out that they weren't going to get the part, you know. So that happens sometimes. It's just part of it. It's real impersonal. I feel bad about it, but that's what it is.
You're a good guy. Any questions on anything you have? You can also probably ask them after class, but any questions?
I have a question. I am from another country, from Colombia, and an actress from Colombia was nominated for an Oscar, Catalina Sandino, a few years ago. She was a new actress, a newcomer, and she was successful in her movie, Maria Full of Grace. What do you think about new actors coming to the country or trying to be successful in the industry? And you know, a lot of the directors or casting directors or agencies want to work with known actors, just to break the wall.
Yeah, I mean, I guess all I can say to that are 2 things. Is there's a lot of casting directors out there. Some of them fall into that category. I wouldn't give up. Just keep trying to get in front of them. Keep trying to get in front of them. And I think you also, you tell me, but you can get access to any script that gets put out on breakdown services if you really try, right?
What is it called? Actors, Showfax?
Yeah, and we used that. So, which is, I think, one of the reasons we had so many people show up at those 3 casting calls. And most of them I didn't recognize. A film like, oh yeah, I remember used to be on like Kojak and all those shows. You know, but I have no idea what their names are. But a lot of them I'd never seen before. So you can. I mean, but you're right. Certain doors are always going to be closed to you. Certain doors are closed to me. I remember trying to walk into the Miramax suite at American Film Market and being talked down to by 22-year-old interns and thrown out. I mean, so. Okay, that's the way. Because it wasn't Miramax. Let me take it back. It was Weinstein Company. Let me put the abuse where it belongs. But yeah, I mean, there's always going to be some doors closed. But and real quickly, Kenny Johnson's story is a good example of that. Kenny's been at this a long time, and he told me about trying to be a model back in the late 80s. And for 3 years, people told him, no one wants a blonde, frat-looking boy, you're never going to make it. And he said he had this agent down in Orange County. It was the only agent he could get. He tried to walk into places like Ford Modeling. They wouldn't touch him. And then suddenly, in the late 80s or early 90s, somehow through that agent, he got LA Gear campaign, and he was like the face of LA gear for a while, which was a real hip kind of a product back then. And then suddenly Ford's like, "You're great. You're the next big thing." And he's like, "Weren't you the ones that weren't talking to me 3 years ago?" And then that jumped from modeling to acting, which I think he did via commercials. He did some of Fincher's commercials for like Coke and stuff. But I mean, it's been an uphill battle. You know, I mean, it's been an uphill battle. And like I said, sometimes all you're seeing is the end result. It looks like, oh, they just showed up and it was an overnight success. I mean, wasn't Clooney supposedly like the guy that was the king of the canceled or pilot or not picked up pilot? I mean, over and over and over again. I mean, he had gray hair by the time he got famous, right? You know, and he's kind of embraced that. But I mean, and some of it maybe is luck too. I was really taken with the Kevin Smith interview in the LA Weekly this week, which you should read if you didn't see it. And he said, "I don't think I'm that great a filmmaker." I don't necessarily agree with that, by the way, but he said, "I think I just got a little bit historically lucky. I happened to show up at Sundance with this weird thing that was kind of outrageous, and Harvey Weinstein wanted to prove that he was a big man and would take a risk on an indie movie." and so that was mine, and he bought it. I don't know, you know, but I mean, there's certainly probably, we might not have be talking about his name if it weren't for that fact, so maybe there was a little luck involved there, but I think it was a good product. But you never know. I mean, but you know what? You can't win the lottery if you're not buying the tickets. If you buy one ticket a year, you know, as opposed to buying every time there's a lottery. I mean, you just got to keep plugging away at it.
Any other questions? Maybe two more, and then we're going to wrap it up.
You said for networking reasons, obviously, it's good to internships or anything like that. And you hear people say, you know, I just called around or I just walked in person. And is that how you got an internship, or did you know someone who worked for that?
All right, how I did it, I was at UCLA Extension at the time, and because technically they're not supposed to let you intern for free. If you're a student, though, and you're getting student credit for it, that's fine. And, you know, UCLA Extension, I just enrolled, and I could get internship credit for that. And if you really step away from it for a minute, for a step or two, you realize you're paying to work for free. But, I mean, you know, it was great. And then I used, what is it, HollywoodCareers.net? Is that the thing? Some of you, what is that one? It's a really old school. It looks like the website was developed in the 90s. EntertainmentCareers.net, that's it. And they have a section on there for internships. So the first internship I got was that way. Then I got a little more aggressive about it, and like when I wanted to work in post, I just started looking for post houses around here that I thought, that, especially small operations, like, I'll bet they could use someone. And I just started emailing them, and a couple of them responded. But when you show up and you say, yeah, we can do this legally and above board, and you get some free work.
Gina?
Yes, you mentioned you were a writer and screenwriter.
Yeah.
I had this concept of a movie, and I had a girlfriend. She was my violin instructor, and we met every week, and she was teaching me violin, and I was teaching her Pilates, and we had this nice rapport, and I came up with this great idea for a movie, and she was like feeding on it. We were enjoying the whole energy, and then we started to write it. And what she did was I was telling her the ideas. I was creating it, 100%, and she was writing everything down. And I didn't have anything to back up my work. And she kept writing, and we were doing internet exchange and everything about, you know, confirming, editing, this and that, this and that. Then all of a sudden, she was going to take it from me. And my friend said, okay, you need to get this into the Library of Congress right away. And so I did. But
what did you get, the script? Or
I got a treatment. We came up with scenes, and it was all my idea. 95% of it was mine. And she just wrote it all down. And I didn't think that she would basically screw me, because we had a friendship, but, you know, things happen, right? So what happened was, and she's a pop violinist, and she's out there in the public, so I won't mention any names, but we are no longer friends, because I surprised her by pulling up the reins, and I logged it with my name as the person that they would contact and get it at least in there and save myself. But I also did the right thing. I did put her name on it as a writer, even though she didn't write it. Now, a year has passed by, and I would like to write the script. I really believe in it. I've shared it with a few people. What can I do? That's my question. Thank you. Yeah.
Talk to a lawyer.
Yeah, okay.
You need an entertainment lawyer.
And how would she find one?
Oh,
That would be affordable.
Yeah.
Well, I think you should bite the bullet and pay what they cost, because if you go with one of these bargain entertainment lawyers, you're going to regret it. I would go with a reputable entertainment lawyer. There's like findlaw.com or stuff they can tell you. I mean, they go anywhere from $350 to $500 an hour. 1 hour, I mean, if it's even half an hour, you're not going to spend hours and hours getting this question answered. But I would talk to a reputable entertainment lawyer. It might cost you a few $100s, several $100.
That's fine.
Okay, I want to thank George and Pappy for coming in, you guys. Good, okay.